Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon Gasparino.
And I am not Edward Webb. Ed is on assignment this week, and I, Jimmy Lucarz, will sub for him until he returns. We are happy to be back after a holiday break.
Speaking of things that I thought would bring us happiness, from the director of Tom Hooper comes the film all of us have been waiting for. Furries everywhere rejoiced when Cats shimmied its way onto the big screen, and boy was it a letdown. What I presumed was going to be a movie that was going to be so bad it's good turned out to be so bad it's boring. The performances were all lackluster, the music was grating and repetitive, and the CG was just completely off base. Combine that with unmotivated locations and a plot that goes absolutely nowhere, and you get one of the worst movie-going experiences I have ever had in my life. I cannot stress, I did not like this movie. This was like, and of course, I think everyone could have presumed it was going to be bad. But my assumption was I was going to go in there and have a good laugh watching this. And I was so close to just ending it all, because the movie would not end. It just kept going and going and going, and it was so boring.
So what motivated you to stay in the theater?
Because I paid like $12 to see it. I didn't want to waste my $12, even though this was an entire waste of $12. I wouldn't even see this movie if it was for free. Like, it's still not worth it. Like, it's just, there's just no point to anything that's happening in this entire movie. Like, it's all pointless.
Did you ever see the actual musical?
I have not seen the actual musical. However, I've heard a lot about the actual musical itself. And from what I've heard about it, it's that what really makes Cats is how the actors interact with the audience. Like, it gets really weird, but like they're in the crowd intermingling with people, they're calling people out. Like, it's almost like a whole visual experience. Like, you go into Cats and you know you're gonna have like this really weird, really interesting time. And what it loses out on is that experience, because the people in the movie can't interact with the people in the audience. So you're just watching people, like, they just keep singing and singing and singing, and it's like they're singing at you, and you don't care.
I heard that, like, one of the problems also was every character would get a song, but there was no time to actually develop the characters more than they're just one weird trait, like, yes, oh, this person's fat, or oh, this person's curious, or whatever.
Or Rum Tum Tugger is a curious cat.
Yeah, or there was a lot of fat cat shaming, for instance.
God, that was so bad. Yeah, no, because all the songs are about like 5-ish minutes long, and it's like you said, all of them are like them describing their one character trait. Rum Tum Tugger is a curious cat. Skimbleshanks is the railroad cat. He works on the railroad. Old Deuteronomy is an old fart. Like, they're all just talking about their one character trait, and then they move on, and we never really see them ever again.
By working on the railroad, what exactly does that mean?
Oh, Jimmy, let me tell you, he keeps the railroad in check. He hunts down all the mice on the railroad. He's always checking on everyone on the railroad. Skimbleshanks is the railroad cat. He works on the railroad, Jimmy.
I feel like you lost it watching this film.
I was just like, I really wanted to laugh at it, but I just couldn't, because I was like, there was nothing to laugh at. Like, it wasn't like, it's not like I was going into The Room, where The Room is so bad it's really funny. There's just nothing. There's nothing for me to laugh at.
So in the end, would you suggest that people should go see it or not?
I would say if you're gonna drop acid, watch this movie. Because I've heard some people saying they either got really drunk, they got stoned, or they did acid, and it was a great time. And I could almost see that being like kind of fun to do. But if you're just going to the stone cold sober, there's absolutely no reason to see this movie.
All right, speaking of sober topics, let's move on to my movie. This week I saw Last Full Measure, directed and written by Todd Robinson, starring Samuel L. Jackson, Sebastian Stan, and Jeremy Irvine as Airman Pitzenberger. The film is based on the true events of April 11th, 1966, where Air Force pararescue man Pitzenberger volunteered to replace an injured Army medic on the ground, saving 60 soldiers before he was killed in action. The film follows Scott Huffman, a Pentagon lawyer, as he does research into the battle so the government can award Pitzenberger the Medal of Honor. The film is an emotional journey that deals with the heroic actions of Pitzenberger, as well as the lasting post-traumatic stress and survivor's guilt that the men he saved have. At times, the film feels like they added drama in Washington to make the film more, well, dramatic. But I do believe it dealt with the loss of a child and the internal demons that soldiers have very well. In all, I think it was a well-made movie, but it unfortunately cannot stand up to other great war films like Saving Private Ryan or 1917.
Okay, so Jimmy, I know you have this problem a lot with movies, because you were in the military, you did your 10 years of service and all that. You are constantly annoyed with how people get the military wrong in movies, all that stuff. How do they deal with that in this movie, in your opinion?
Granted, this has a lot to do with Vietnam, and I'm not that old, even though I keep being told I'm that old. There are some issues with it, like for instance, the entire movie, they're doing flashbacks to the actual battle, and Pitzenberger comes down wearing, his Air Force uniform, and he's got 3 stripes, which is senior airman. Okay, so he's senior airman. But then at the end, when they're awarding the Medal of Honor, the Secretary of the Air Force calls him A1C, or Airman First Class, Pitzenberger, which is only 2 stripes. Okay. I know after his death, they promoted him to Staff Sergeant. But the thing is, you're kind of making a big mistake there by saying you were this rank when he was actually another rank. Okay. So which one was he? My issue isn't really with, I actually am very happy with the way they portray, like Samuel L. Jackson's character. He was the lieutenant on the ground that led his men into the ambush, and his survivor skill was very well played out. Christopher Plummer plays Pitzenberger's father, who's fighting for his son to get the medal before he himself dies of cancer. Those actors were, in my opinion, they were very true to the whole post-traumatic stress or survivor's guilt or a parent losing a child. That, I think, was the strongest part of the movie. The battle scenes were okay. The military stuff, I feel like they tried to make it more dramatic, especially the stuff in the Pentagon, because they were making the argument that the guy researching, the main character who was researching for the medal, he really didn't want to do the job, and then once he started wanting to do the job, the people in Washington were trying to keep him from getting the medal. I feel like they added that drama for no reason. They could have easily if they took it out, then it would have been less of a movie, but it just felt very Lifetime movie-ish. Okay. Because you know how a Lifetime movie will have unnecessary drama just so that way there's some kind of drama? Yeah. That's what it kind of felt like. Okay. But as far as the stuff they showed, most of it was dealing with the actual veterans, so there wasn't much to go off the rails there, because most of them were wearing civilian clothes. Okay, that's good at least. That it wasn't perfect, but at least they somewhat tried to get it. Yep. I know that there's a lot of people in the Air Force promoting this movie because the Air Force doesn't usually get movies. The Air Force doesn't usually go over movies, or don't have movies. It's usually Army or Marine based. But overall, I think this was an enjoyable film, but I don't think it's going to win any awards, or it's not going to be widely remembered like the other war movies I've mentioned. That's fair. All right. Speaking of things that will not be remembered, so Sony Pictures is beginning development of the Anaconda reboot. They have hired Divergent writer Evan Daugherty to write the new film. The first Anaconda film was released in 1997, starring Jennifer Lopez and Ice Cube. The original film had 1 sequel in 2004 and 3 direct-to-TV films. Okay. I'm certain I've seen those direct-to-TV films, because I think they were on the Sci-Fi Channel. And that's always what I associated with Anaconda when I was a kid. It's oh yeah, it's these weird Sci-Fi Channel movies. No idea it was an actual movie that came out in the 90s or whatever. Yep. But what is it about 2020 that needs an Anaconda reboot? Why do we need to return to Anaconda? Well, it won't come out till 2021 or 2022. Fair enough, but why? What's important about Anaconda that we need to
desperately come back to see this movie.
Remember that song, Anaconda?
Yes, Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
Okay, so like 9 years ago when Nicki Minaj came out with that song,
Well, you know how things take forever to be developed in Hollywood.
they had to get the rights from her.
It almost took 100 years for Titanic to be made.
Of course. Yeah, well, you need to have the crash first, and then you need to build up the mythos, and then once you get there, you got the actual movie.
As far as why Anaconda is being made, for real, I have no idea. Like it could be just an idea of this is a cheap movie to be made that can quickly make a few bucks, and that's it. But as far as I wasn't even interested in the first one when it came out, and I was a kid, and I was dumb. I was a 10-year-old kid, and I saw that, I was just like, no.
I mean, like, it seems like it's exactly that. They're trying to cash in on nostalgia, because that's what they're doing with all these freaking, like, sequels or reboots or whatever. But what's the nostalgia behind Anaconda?
The music?
Is it really iconic? Because I've never seen the original movie. I've only seen the direct-to-TV films.
It was a fun musical, like, Sony was trying to compete with Disney, and I'm just coming up with bullshit right now.
Okay.
We're just eating up time right now, trying to figure out why this movie's being made.
I mean, like, here's my hope for the Anaconda reboot. I hope it's not what Cats was and bad boring. I'm hoping it's a train wreck and it's amazing, like, to watch. Because that seems like the perfect kind of movie that, like, the Anaconda reboot would be. I don't want it to be serious.
Okay,
I want it to be a joke.
What movie would you consider so bad that it's funny? Name one.
The Room.
The Room.
Easy off the top of the bat.
Another one for those who may not have seen The Room.
So bad. I'm usually not like a so bad it's funny kind of guy, but this is like that's like the kind of vein I'd want to go for this. Oh God, what's another really good one? I'm trying to think, but like I'm blanking at the moment because it's not my usual style. But,
yeah, I would say Black Dynamite, but that was meant to be so bad it's funny.
Yeah, that's a good ancient one, like.
But yeah, I can't think of anything. Anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't particularly.
So let's
care
move on
about
to the
this,
next topic because we're done with reboots, right?
Of course we are, Jimmy. Of course we're done with
Speaking of reboots, Disney is at it again with a live-action Bambi reboot. Expect to see a new generation of children scared for their life after seeing Bambi's mom die at the hands of a hunter. Geneva Robinson Dwart, I'm pretty sure I misspelled or mispronounced that, who wrote Captain Marvel and Tomb Raider, and Lindsay Beer, who wrote Sierra Burgess is a Loser and Chaos Walking, have been hired to pen the script. So, we're rebooting the idea of reboots. What do you think about Bambi?
I hate the general movie-going audience so much. Because the only reason this movie is getting made is because Beauty and the Beast made money, Maleficent made money, I guarantee you the Aladdin made money, Lion King made a ton of money, and they're not doing anything new. It's so frustrating, like, watching, like there's so many good movies that came out this year. Like, Knives Out is like a great example of this, The Lighthouse and all that. None of them will make anywhere close to the amount of movie Bambi the reboot will get.
Well, children's movies usually make a ton more, but yeah, you're right.
I mean, but it's like it's so frustrating because they're not even that good. They're all like really bad.
Some of them were good.
Some of them are good. I will say, like, there's like original Maleficent. I've heard that is very good, and Beauty and the Beast was apparently okay, but like Dumbo was horrible apparently. The Lion King was also atrocious. Like,
it was shot for shot the same movie.
Exactly. And what is the point at that point? And that's probably what Bambi's going to be, because that's and that's where it all comes back to the general populace. They're going to go and see this, and then it's going to make a ton of money, and Disney's going to be like, well, this is what everyone wants to see. And it's so lazy, and I hate it, because there's so many good ideas that will never make as much money as that.
Do you think this will cause a mass outcry against hunting?
No. I guarantee you what's going to happen is it's going to release. There's going to be like some they're going to do what they did with Cats. Here's what's going to happen. I'm predicting the future right now. So Tom Hooper, they're going to be like, Tom Hooper, you know what? You did a great job with Les Mis, but you know what? I mean, like, Cats was a flop. We think you can do better. We want you to do the live-action Bambi. Do the same exact thing you did for Cats. No motion tracking on any of the people at all. You're just going to put it on them like a filter at the end. And they're all going to be animals. It's going to be great. It's going to make like $1 billion worldwide.
I have a feeling it's going to look more like The Lion King.
Come back in a year from now when it releases, and we'll see if I'm right.
Well, I'm sure it'll be like 2 years, but
it's
in early development.
I wish there were other things that were being made, like, just original ideas that don't require like a stupid reboot of something or anything like that.
Well, I mean,
it's so lazy. It's
I
just,
will play devil's advocate just because we have probably 30 seconds. I think, well, the reason they do it is because to make the original stuff, they need to make money. Whereas the original stuff is a hit or, like, they're either going to make money or lose money or whatever.
Of course.
But they
the
need
easy
to
way
make
out.
that money in order to take those chances. Bambi is guaranteed to make them a lot of money. Also, I mean, if they're going to stick it directly on Disney Plus, they do have a content shortage right now after The Mandalorian finished up. So they need to make money. That's why they go with stuff that they know is going to make money.
I know, but it's becoming the trend where it's like no one wants to do something original. We just want to reboot or make something a sequel. It's been a trend for like the last 10 years.
Well, why do you think they have so many superhero movies?
I know, and I'm still not a fan of that. It's just annoying. But regardless, the Bambi movie will be terrible. I'll hate it. But in the vein of something that I might actually like, so we have the Oscars coming up soon. Day of the Super Bowl. It's gonna be great. And the Oscars will air week after, of course. The Oscars will air February 8th, and we figured we should discuss some of the nominations beforehand. So, the nominations for performance by an actor in a leading role are Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver in Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, and Jonathan Pryce in Two Popes. And much like the Oscars, I didn't see all those movies except Joker. So I am the perfect person to discuss this with. Just like the Oscars.
I saw 3 of those films. Joker, obviously. I mean, the Two Popes and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit more input. The Antonio Banderas one and Marriage Story, I didn't see.
I mean, it's Adam Driver in Marriage Story. Adam Driver's always good, so.
He is, and so is what's her face that was in it.
Scarlett Johansson.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's also up, of course, because we're sexist in Hollywood. She's up for, I think, best leading female role.
And I'm sure they deserve being up there. I just haven't seen them, so I can't. I'm not gonna want to be quoted.
Yeah.
The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, though it was very much a who did it again? What's his name?
Oh, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though it's very much his type of movie, it just it felt dragged out. Like seriously. Okay. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio didn't do bad. He did great. It just I didn't like the movie because it was just like this movie. Like usually in those movies, there's a build-up that's worth it. Like you know, the slow burn makes sense at the end. The payoff's good. But this movie, it just felt like the burn was too slow. And but Joker was good, and I do agree that Joaquin Phoenix probably should get an award for this.
He was really good in that movie. He was a good Joker, so.
And then The Two Popes, which is on Netflix, is definitely not a movie for everyone. It's just basically, you know, the current Pope and the Pope that retired talking and like basically like grumpy old men together in a room and developing a friendship. It was a fun movie. It was just very dialogue heavy. And I don't know, I feel like Joker deserves it out of the 3 because I feel like Joaquin Phoenix did the most work to create the character, whereas the other 2, it didn't. I don't know. I mean, they both were good.
I feel like there's a quote I heard from someone a long time ago on a podcast I was listening to. And it's basically that there's like really never been like a bad like Joker when you think about it. This was before, of course, the Suicide Squad came out and there was a bad Joker.
Yep, I was going to judge you.
But it was like, essentially like, the Joker is very hard to kind of screw up. Like it's not that he's easy to play, but he's like, his character, what's a good way of putting this? It's like, there's really no way to badly interpret that character.
Yeah,
like, you can kind of do it however, and it'll still work because it's the Joker.
Yeah, there's so many versions of the Joker.
Yeah. So it's like, on one hand, I really liked him in that movie, but on the other hand, it's kind of like, there might be someone who's better for this. Like, who might actually like want him more. Like maybe Adam Driver or Leo, but I digress. Like, because I only did see Joker, so it's kind of hard for me to make that opinion. But
all right, let's move on to the upcoming.
Yes. So we got a few upcoming films coming this weekend. We have The Rhythm Section starring Blake Lively, and we have Gretel and Hansel coming out.
This episode's full of disappointments for you.
I hate you. I hate you so much. Okay, so when I saw the trailer for Hansel and Gretel, I was just like, why? Because we already got a Hansel and Gretel movie like 5 years ago. It was the Hansel and Gretel Monster Hunter movie, if you remember that one.
First of all, I think if we're thinking of the same one, is that the one with Heath Ledger and what's his face?
I don't know. All I know is that it's the Hansel and Gretel are grown up, and they have like bow and arrows,
that
and they hunt monsters.
That was like 2013. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a totally different one than I was thinking.
Exactly, and that already came out. So I'm like, why? That probably flopped. I don't even think.
I'm pretty sure it
made
flopped. I mean, I watched it on
Why are we
bootleg,
trying
so.
this again? Why are you trying to make Hansel and Gretel horrifying? Like, I get the original Grimm's fairy tale story
Because
is
they don't have to
terrifying, but
pay anyone the rights to the story.
Try something new. you.
Okay. And what about Blake Lively's movie, the rhythm section?
It kind of just looks like a very stereotypical like Hollywood action, like almost like thriller.
Just your average revenge
Yeah.
thing? Because, I mean, last year, was
seems
it
like it.
Annabelle with Jennifer Garner came out?
I thought you were talking about the Annabelle movies, like the horror films.
What was that one with Jennifer Garner? It wasn't Annabelle. It was,
Garner. I don't know.
it was basically her daughter gets killed and then she comes back 5 years later to seek revenge. But, yeah, it's just your stereotypical revenge thriller by the number. So if you want to just be entertained, but see nothing new, then
I'm sure it'll be enjoyable. I'm sure it'll be an enjoyable experience with explosions and all that good stuff, but I don't know. I don't particularly want to see it that badly.
Well, I mean, we covered a bunch of movies, or 2 movies that we saw recently.
I don't know if Cats qualifies as a movie.
Is there any other movies that you saw over the break that stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw 1917 over break, and that was pretty solid. I would have recommended seeing that, especially if you're into film and all that. They do an amazing job of making that whole film look like it's one shot. It's amazing. I love that.
I saw it too. It was an epic. Honestly, it was epic. I would say it's up there with Saving Private Ryan.
I could see it. I feel like they're very different. Is the thing.
Oh, yeah, they're very
Saving Private
different.
Ryan, like they're very different moods.
But I'm talking about quality-wise.
Quality-wise, yes, 100%. Like if you know, like I feel like with that kind of film, like if you know film a little bit, you can kind of tell like parts where like you can tell, okay, they probably cut behind this because like they were moving behind a rock here, so it's like that'd be a good place to cut. But there were also like 10-minute sequences where I'm like, I have no clue where I'd even cut in this scene. Like this is impossible. Like how would you do this?
All right.
And that's what I think is the great part about this.
Unfortunately, we got to wrap it up.
Of course.
So, thank you for joining us for another fun episode of The Film Basement. I'm your temporary host, Jimmy Lucarz, until Ed gets back.
And I'm Cats fan Brandon Gasparino, and we'll see you guys next week.